You're watching the Commissioner's Report. I'm your host, Kevin Waller, and as you can see, we are outside the studio at the new elections headquarters, and this is Commissioner Lindsey, and also we are with Supervisor of Elections, Lori Edwards. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
So first, Ms. Edwards, tell me about yourself and pretty much how long have you been serving your role?
Well, I've been fortunate to be Supervisor of Elections in Polk County since the year 2000, and I will remind you that's the year that Florida elections blew up. So it's been a very exciting time. We've seen lots of changes. Before that, I was in the Florida legislature representing Eastern Polk County, and I do have to tell you that I got hooked on the election system and politics when I was about 15 years old watching those political conventions on TV. Those folks just looked like they were having so much fun.
And Commissioner Lindsey, I know, when did you enter the political arena?
Well, officially 4 years ago when I was elected to my first term on the county commission. But like Ms. Edwards, I've been involved in politics on the periphery and intrigued by civic service and civic responsibility. So I followed politics since my early years.
And of course, how do you think they're doing?
Well, I think they're doing a great job. You know, one of the responsibilities of the county commission, few people realize, is to provide the facilities to our constitutional officers, Ms. Edwards' office, Supervisor of Elections, even the sheriff and the jail, and all the other constitutional officers. Lori came to us about a year ago and said, our facilities just, we can't serve the people of Polk County out of their existing facilities. And they have searched the area trying to find a new location to be more centrally located for the poll workers and all the talents and tasks that she has to do. So they had done quite an extensive search and been very frustrated finding a suitable location, and finally found this facility and decided to buy it and had it remodeled and refurbished to suit her needs, and I hope it worked for you.
Oh, wonderful. And just in time for the big election.
Yes.
Couldn't be better.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this building, where it's located, that sort of stuff.
I sure will. Well, it's located right in the geographic center of Polk County, which is very helpful because we have election workers that live in every inch of Polk County. And this way it's a little bit easier for everyone. The building was actually built in the mid-90s by the Florida Citrus Showcase, which was the organization that was in charge of running the Florida Citrus Festival. It was used as office space, a couple boardrooms for them to meet, but mostly exhibit space. So when people came to the Florida Citrus Festival in Polk County in the middle of the 90s, this is where they came.
Okay, and I know Commissioner Lindsey did talk a bit about why you needed this building, but let's hear your thoughts on it as well.
Well, we were out of space, there was no question about it. Back, over 12 years ago, it was 2004, the county did a space study analysis for the Supervisor of Elections office and found out that we needed, at that time, 12 years ago, 41 to 50,000 square feet of space. We were in 18,000 square feet of space, and we were in that space for 27 years. During that 27 years, the number of voters in Polk County more than doubled. So we were really challenged, not only kind of physically, if you can imagine, but it was starting to take its toll on our ability to keep everything secure and safe, because almost every inch of that location was being used for 2 or 3 functions. We also had to go outside the building for training space and other things that we needed. This way now, with election headquarters in Bartow for our voter registration services, and at what we call our operations center here, we're able to keep the family together a little more.
And what does Operation Center mean?
That's a very good question. Well, you know, we have a dual role, more than dual actually, but as the Supervisor of Elections, we're responsible for maintaining the voter registration rolls, but also conducting fair, efficient elections. And the Operations Center is more about the elections, and election headquarters is more about the voter registration system. It takes a lot of people. In fact, it takes about 1,700 people to run an election here in Polk County. It takes a lot of stuff like voting equipment, ballots, the booths that you vote in, all the supplies for the precincts. And now we can house all that stuff and those people here at the Operations Center.
And in terms of voting, we know voting is very, very important. In fact, you wouldn't have a job if
Sure.
it was not for the voters. What would you say to those at home who say, voting's not important?
Well, certainly it is. Those who choose to be involved in the process need to exercise that vote. A lot of people paid a big price for a long time ago to preserve that right. And it's been made so easy, there's really no excuse not to vote. Early voting, mail-in voting. I'm a traditionalist. I guess I'm too old. I want to go to the polls and seldom stand in line anymore because so many early voting, but I just enjoy the ritual of that. And also get my little button, a decal that says I voted. But it's very important. And on the eve of a local, state, and national elections, it seemed appropriate to have this program today.
Okay, perfect. And want to explore? Tell me a little bit about how the Operations Center actually benefits voters.
I sure can. One is the fact that it's in the center of the county. And that means, the folks who live in Lake Wales and Bartow and Mulberry and the southern part of the county, they can still get the customer service that they need and want at election headquarters in Bartow. But we have an awful lot of our population here in Polk County are now up in the Poinciana and Four Corners area. And of course in Winter Haven and Lake Alfred and Auburndale. All those people now can do business with the elections office a lot more conveniently. Same thing for election workers when it comes time to pick up supplies or drop off supplies, as well as attend training classes. It's a little bit closer for a lot of people.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, I had the tour of Lori's building here a few weeks ago, which prompted our revisit, and I was surprised to learn the number of people that you need to gear up for during an election. Your permanent staff works year-round, but during those elections, share with us what that process
Sure.
is.
In fact, that's my biggest challenge as your Supervisor of Elections is we have 22 full-time staffers year-round, always working. On Election Day, 1,700 people. So just recruiting that many people, because you know what? We don't want just anybody. We want people with excellent customer service skills. We want people who know how important this is and are very dependable.
And do you have almost all you need, or are there still opportunities out there?
That's a good question. This presidential election has drawn more attention than any election that I have seen as far as election workers are concerned. So at the moment, we're pretty much full up for both our early voting sites and our 167 precincts. However, we have a waiting list because you just never know. And so if somebody really is just bound and determined they really want to work the election, they should email us at electionworker@polkelections.com.
Okay. And what are some of the training the election workers have to go through?
Well, that's another thing that people who vote may not realize all that goes on around behind the scenes. Somebody once said just a lot of moving parts. We conduct 80 training classes before each and every election. And it varies. Some people only get 2 hours, and some people maybe get 8 and some even 10 hours training before each election.
Perfect. And what's the turnout usually like for an election here in Polk County?
Well, that varies very much from election to election, but it's pretty predictable because you can go back and look at the turnout in a like election. For instance, this year, we would go back to 2012, which was a very similar election, presidential election, and see what we expect the turnout to be. In our August primary, we would go back to an August primary election in a presidential year. But by doing that, I can predict that we'll have 70 to 75% max of our voters here in Polk County will turn out for this November 8th election.
And what else would you like to add about the whole entire process?
About our voting process?
Correct, yes.
Well, of course it's very important, but I would like to suggest to people to take advantage of the many convenient ways that they can exercise their right to vote and make their voice heard. You know, if you really think about it, you can vote by mail in your pajamas, in your bare feet, in your recliner while you've got your laptop on your lap. Or you can go to an early voting site for 2 weeks before, or of course 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Election Day. I would say there's no excuses not to.
Lori, a few years ago, because of the sheer volume of local elections and state elections, you had to move some municipal elections off cycle. And in fact, our city of Lakeland elections are November of 17. But since that's happened, we've seen the voting participation in the municipal elections plummet, for lack of a better word. How can we turn that trend around?
Well, you're right that the turnout is low, but I would like to put that in perspective with you, okay? In Polk County, the municipal elections, and you know better than anybody, 17 municipalities, generally run between 12% turnout and 20% turnout. I think one St. City had 21, 22, but you know, that's the realistic range. We just had a statewide primary election just 2 months ago, August 30th, here in Polk County, where a county commissioner was decided, a school board member was decided, there was an amendment about solar energy, an important election. Do you know what the turnout was? 18.9%. So I just want to put in perspective that yes, turnout is low at city elections, but turnout is low at a lot of elections. Also, the other thing that is important to put it in perspective is you might have 70% turnout in a presidential election, and that means 70% of the people are going to go vote on who's president.
Not down ballot.
By the time you get to the back of the second page, we don't have 70% anymore.
Will there be a two-page front and back?
Just front and back, but thankfully not front and back, which is what we had last time in the presidential.
Yep.
Do you have any other questions for the Supervisor of Elections?
Well, I just want to commend her and her staff for the great job. While Florida's been the focus, you know, starting back in 2000, there's never been a focus on our county for anything that wasn't perfect. And while there are issues by the sheer nature of something complex as this and spread out over the entire county, when the issues pop up, she's got the staff and the team to address it, and there's never been a question about an election in Polk County. And I'm proud of her staff and truly the support that the County Commission gives all of our elected officials, property appraiser and tax collector and all of them, and we have a good team here at Polk County. I'm proud of that relationship.
Perfect. What are some of the most challenging things of being the Supervisor of Election?
Well, the single most challenge is to grow that team with people who are going to provide that excellent customer service and really care about it. The other thing is as things get heated, and they don't get much heated than they are this election system, many times both sides are guilty of this, will start rumors that will in effect tear down the integrity of the election system, and that really, really bothers me, okay? Because frankly, if we don't have, we as Americans don't have confidence in our democracy and our electoral process, there's nowhere good to go.
And any closing thoughts?
I do. I want to thank the Commission. Commissioner Lindsey said it correctly. They, the board, as well as the county staff, have offered us 100% complete support on everything we've needed at the election office since day one, and we would not have had the success that we do without that type of support, as well as wonderful relationships.
Perfect. And Commissioner Lindsey, your final thoughts?
Well, I had to deal with elections office. I'm up for re-election this year, and I was fortunate not to draw an opponent. But going through the process and filing the forms and doing the things you got to do, it is a daunting task for someone offering themselves for public service. And this staff does a great job of making sure that the reports are filed on time, and they just they follow up and do a great job.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here. And don't go anywhere, because right after this short break, we're going to be looking at more election things. In fact, you're going to find out a lot more of what you need to know about the upcoming election.
My dad was in the Air Force for 26 years. We've always moved around since I was young. When I was applying for scholarships, we came across Thanks USA, which helps military children earn scholarships towards whatever university they want.
Education gives you the chance to find the nexus between your unique passions and gifts and the needs of the world around you.
I think it is really important, and it's so special that this scholarship focuses on the military family.
You realize that ripple effect, that you give them an education and they're gonna take it and run.
My father's very proud of what I've done, and he's proud of the fact that I'm a teacher and that I'm shaping new leaders for this country.
Didn't have to pay for my bachelor's degree. So I wanted to use it in a way that I can give back, but also give back to the military community.
One person who is able to get their education and then impact their community and give back is helping hundreds per day.
It's time to exercise. Exercise your right to vote. All precincts are open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 8th, and it's important to make your voice heard. I'm Lori Edwards with some important reminders. Double check your precinct location in advance. It's on your voter information card. And don't forget, bring photo ID when you go to the polls. Sample ballots are available at our website, polkelections.com.
Simple moments are what make every day count.
I've got some important information for you about the upcoming election. But first, how about we have a little fun? You know, it's a big presidential election coming up. So let's play some trivia about presidential firsts. Are you ready? Who do you think was the first U.S. president on a U.S. postage stamp? Do you think it was George Washington, John Adams, or Thomas Jefferson? You have your guess? Well, if you guessed George Washington, you're correct. And if you're older than about 55 or so, you may remember that postage stamp that you're seeing right there when it only cost a nickel. All right, another trivia question for you. Who was the first U.S. president to ride in a train? Do you think it was Millard Fillmore, James Madison, or Andrew Jackson? You got your guess? Well, if you guessed Andrew Jackson, you were correct. He was the first U.S. president to ride a train. And finally, who do you think was the first U.S. president who ever got to see the Pacific Ocean? Isn't that amazing that we had presidents that had not seen the whole country, that had not had an opportunity to view the Pacific Ocean? Do you think it was Teddy Roosevelt, Ulysses S. Grant, or Andrew Johnson? Well, most people guess Teddy Roosevelt, and that's because, of course, he's known for all his travels in the West, but it was actually U.S. Grant. Well, I hope you did good on that test. Fun's over now. We're going to get to the serious stuff. November 8th is a big election day here in Polk County, as a matter of fact, all over the nation, of course. I'm sure you've seen a lot of commercials for that. But I want you to keep in mind another date, and that's October 11th, because October 11th is the very last opportunity anyone will have to register to vote for that November election. That means anyone who is new to Florida, or maybe they're going to be 18 by the time Election Day rolls around, we need that application in our office on October 11th. And I have a little tip for you. Don't wait till the last minute. If you're not registered, you have a friend or relative or neighbor who's not registered, get them registered right away. That's my crystal ball right there. And that's how many people I think will be voting in the presidential election just here in Polk County. 300,000 people will be processed. Now, to give you a sense of what that means, this is Raymond James Stadium. You're familiar with that, where the Bucks play? Well, if you imagine filling up Raymond James Stadium completely to the rim and letting all those people out and filling it up again, and letting all those people out and do that 4 1/3 time, that's how many people, 300,000 people are. That's how many people that your election office will be processing for this big presidential election. There's a lot on the ballot. That's why so many people are interested in it. Of course, you know the U.S. president, and it's an open presidency at that. But we also have a very important United States Senate seat. Every member of Congress representing Polk County will be on the ballot this year. Every state Senate seat will be on the ballot this year in Polk County. Every state House of Representatives seat for the Florida legislature will be on the ballot for Polk County this year. There's a county commission seat that you'll have the opportunity to vote on. The sheriff is on the ballot this year. And there's more. There's 2 school board races still to be decided. There's 13 judicial retention questions on the ballot. And there's even a soil and water conservation district. But wait, there's more. We have more for you. There's some constitutional amendments, or proposed constitutional amendments anyway, that are on the ballot. The first one, number 1, is the right of electricity consumers regarding solar energy choice. Number 2 is the use of marijuana for debilitating medical conditions. Number 3 is a tax exemption for totally and permanently disabled first responders. And there's no number 4, but we skip to number 5, and that's a homestead tax exemption for certain senior low-income long-term residents of Florida. If that passes, it just gives local government the opportunity to offer that tax break. It doesn't in itself offer the tax break. And speaking of taxes, there's actually a Polk County amendment on the ballot. And that's a county referendum that asks if you want to continue the existing 1/2 cent sales tax that we're currently paying to help pay for health care for indigent low-income seniors, adults, as well as children right here in Polk County. And speaking of Polk County, we have 3 easy ways to vote. Of course, you can vote at your precinct on Election Day. I call that the traditional method. You can vote early at one of our 9 convenient early voting sites all over Polk County. And of course, you can vote by mail. Voting in advance has become really popular here in Polk County. In fact, the last presidential election in 2012, 49% of our Polk County voters had already voted by the time we opened the door at the first precinct on Election Day. That's 121,000 people cast their ballot in advance in the presidential election, and I bet you more will vote in advance for this election right now. These are important dates for you to remember. The first one on the top, that's about early voting. That's the dates that your early voting locations or early voting sites will be open around Polk County. We'll start at 7 o'clock in the morning on October 24th and stay open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day, including weekends, right through November 5th. By the way, you need to be in line by 7 p.m. for these early voting sites or at your precinct. However, if you are in line, we'll stay open to accommodate you, but be there before 7 o'clock. Let's make it easier. Also, the other date, November 2nd, that's your final opportunity to request a mail ballot be mailed to you. Anytime between now and then, you can have us mail you an absentee ballot, but after that, you would have to come pick one up if there was an emergency of some sort. Again, I would like to suggest don't wait till the last minute. Go ahead and give us a call or visit our website now if you're interested in voting by mail like so many of the Polk County residents are. Also wanted to talk to you about redistricting. This actually happened late last year and early this year, but many people hadn't focused on it until now. And of course, we're talking about the districts that are drawn by the legislature for the state Senate, the state House of Representatives, or Congress. Well, the courts have decided that some of those districts need to be redrawn. They were redrawn all over the state of Florida, and when that happened, it meant changes for every Polk County voter. It might be as easy as a precinct number change. It might be that just one of your districts have changed, or it could be that you're going to need to vote in a different polling location as a result of these district changes. I'm going to review those for you now. This is a map of the congressional districts before redistricting. So this is what it looked like when we had our last election 2 years ago, our last general election. So take a look at that. You see we had 4 congressional districts, and you can point in your head to the place where you live and keep an eye on that, because now I'm going to show you the new congressional districts. And look at that, instead of 4 districts, we have 3 districts. And you probably saw the lines moved quite a bit. So more than likely, or let's say there's a good chance anyway, you're going to be, or you are in a different congressional district now than you were just 2 years ago. And that will show up, of course, on your ballot when it's your turn to vote on your representative in Congress. Now, the State House, or State House of Representative seats in the Florida legislature, those did not change. The court said, no, we're going to leave those as is. But the state Senate seats have changed. And so here's a map of what the state Senate districts used to look like in Polk County. There were 3 state Senate districts, and again, take a look at that county map and think about where your house is, because now I'm going to show you the new districts. And you can see we still have 3 state Senate districts like we did, but the lines are completely different. So there's a good chance you're going to have a different state senator and have the opportunity to vote on a different state senator than you did before this redistricting. Now, if there were any changes, and there was for everybody, it will be reflected on the voter information card that you received this summer. In addition to your new districts that'll be listed on there, the most important thing I want to point out is your polling place for Election Day is on that card. And on Election Day, you only can vote at the polling place that you've been assigned. In early voting, you can go to whichever spot you'd like. But for Election Day voting, you must vote at the precinct that you're assigned on your voter registration card. Now, if for some reason you've misplaced that card, there's other ways to find out where to vote on Election Day. The easiest and perhaps most common, especially if you think of this late at night, would be our website, polkelections.com. And you can just look up where to vote, and you'll find out exactly by typing in your address and a few other things what precinct you should show up on Election Day. Now, if you think of this and are wondering during regular business hours, we're happy to help you on the phone. Just give us a call at 534-5888. I do recommend that everybody check in advance to double check that they're still supposed to vote at the same place that they're used to voting. And then finally, I wanted to point out to you, there's been a lot of news lately. It seems almost every day. Something about hacking into voting systems, that things are not secure, that we need to worry about the security of our voting system. Well, I wanted to let you know that in Polk County, our voting equipment never gets hooked up to the internet. It has never been hooked up to the internet, and we will not hook it up to the internet. That, of course, erases much of the biggest threat that we are concerned about. But in addition to that, we have physical systems in place where we're thorough and we're redundant, making sure that our equipment in Polk County is not tampered with. So I think that you can rest assured that your vote will count and be counted correctly right here in Polk County. And then finally, our website. It's got so much information that can be helpful. You can look up, as I mentioned, where to vote. You can request a mail ballot on our website if you would like to. Another thing that it's handy for, and we want to encourage you, if you've moved, changed your address, maybe changed your name because of marriage or divorce, update your record right on our website, and do it early, do it in advance, because you know on Election Day it's just going to be more paperwork. So we'd rather have your information absolutely correct before then. We also have information about candidates and past election results. I think once you get started on there, you might not be able to stop. So that's polkelections.com. Thanks so much. It was great being with you today.
I gave thanks with tickets to a concert.
Looking for a unique way to show your gratitude for our nation's veterans? Give your extra tickets to VetTix. VetTix. Give something to those who gave. For more information on how you can make a difference, go to vettix.org.